Hello, and welcome back to the fourth and last part of our Design Your Year challenge. This is going to be the last episode on this series. This is how we're closing the year. And today we are basically going to spend some time together planning for 2024. We've done a lot of work this far. We reflected on what are the things that we're leaving behind in 2023. We worked on doing a life audit and creating some self awareness of where we are. Then we define what is our destination, what is that vision by creating that vision board. And today we're creating the plan on how to get from where we are today to where we want to be 12 months from now. Welcome to the Leading Yourself podcast. This is your host, Carolina de Arriba. I'm an HR professional, health and fitness coach, wife, mom, and above all things, a goal-getter. In this podcast, we're going to be digging into all things leadership, professional and career development, habits, and relationships. This is a podcast for those who want to become the best version of themselves. Those who have big dreams and are willing to embrace the journey and put in the work to achieve them. My goal is to share with you the tools, tips, and tricks to help you in your journey. So let's dig into today's episode. Okay, we are on the last step on designing our best year yet. And today we're kind of bringing all the things that we've been working on in the last 3 weeks and putting it all together to create a plan on how we're going to achieve that vision that we have for 2024. It's just like when we're entering an address on a GPS, right? You need to know what is your starting point. We did that in week 2 when we did that reflection on 2023, that life audit. Then you need to know, where are you heading? What is your destination? And we kind of did that last week when we created our vision board. And today we're tracing the route between our current point and our destination. We are planning for 2024. And what I want to do today, because we can spend hours talking about this and working on our plan for 2024. And I consider myself a planner. I want to put that out there from the very beginning. I like to plan. I enjoy the process of planning. But I think it's also important that we don't get caught up in planning. At the end of the day, what it's going to make you make that vision a reality is the actions that you take, right? So the idea for today's episode is to give you at a very high level an approach on how to plan your year, so then you can start 2024 off the bat, right into action, working towards achieving your goals and making your dreams a reality. So let me step back for a moment. I heard someone use this analogy and I love it and I can relate to it a lot. I think a lot of people play their lives on defense. What do I mean by that? When we look at our calendars, a lot of time our calendars are filled with everyone else's demands and expectations of us. And I'm guilty of this. I always say, I want to be in control of my life. I want to be in the driver's seat of my life. I want to pursue the things that matter most to me. But when I look at my calendar and if I'm completely honest, my calendar is not fully aligned with that. A lot of the things in my calendar are there because someone else put it in there, right? So our calendars are filled with other people's demands and expectations. And while we can't eliminate that because that will not be realistic, I think it's important that we are proactive and we plan ahead. So then, if we put our big rocks first, as I learned on the 7 habits of highly effective people, then everyone else can put their demands on the time that is left after us having planned our priorities and the things that matter most to us. That's why it's so important that we take the time to plan the year. And I'm super excited to do that with you today. So, one personal goal of mine this year is to play offense in 2024. Plan for success, for adventure, and for something that I can get excited about. Because I think that's what, looking back, those moments that made us excited are the things that brings us fulfillment. And I want to be sitting here a year from now looking back and feeling fulfilled and feeling excited for what just happened, for the year that we're leaving behind, right? I also believe that a lot of times when we overplan things, and I'm guilty of that sometimes, we fall into our routine and we end up living our life out of routine. And I am a fan of routines. I think that routines are great and they help us be more efficient and be able to organize our day so we can align to the things that matter most. But I think that sometimes routines tend to get us on a rut. If you've ever felt stuck or in a rut, for me, when I look back and I put my detective hat and I try to look at the root cause of that, a lot of times is because I've overdone my routines. I felt in the trap of living my life out of routine. So I think creating newness, creating adventure is important when we're planning for our year, planning for those things and incorporating fun into our annual plan is important. And this is a lesson I learned over the years. In the past, I will plan for my achievements. I would plan for the deliverables. I will plan for the results. And I forgot to plan for the fun and the adventure, thinking that those things will just happen. And sometimes they never did because I was consumed by the work, by the achievements, by the routine. So, one thing that now I like to do and be intentional about is planning for fun and adventure and for newness. And a lot of times it's hard, especially as we grow up. I look at my kids, and for them, it's so easy to incorporate those things into their lives, that newness and that adventure. Almost every week they're doing incorporating those things, especially my 7-year old. For me as a grown up, if I don't plan for those things, they tend not to happen. So I want to be proactive and I want to incorporate that into 2024. And I want to invite you to also think about those things. The other thing I think it's important when we look at planning for our year is to prioritize ourselves, to prioritize our health, to prioritize what we want most, what is most important, what will make us feel proud of ourselves and confident and feel joy and feel fulfillment, right? So it's important to think about, how do I want to feel in 2024 and plan to feel that way. And while you sometimes cannot control how you feel, you can control the things that evoke those feelings. You know what things make you feel joy. You know what things make you feel stress. You know what things tend to drive fulfillment in your life. So be intentional about scheduling things that you know are likely to help you evoke some of the emotions that you want to experience in 2024. So once again, planning our year, it's like drafting a map, right? That's your plan is your map. And if you do it right, then it becomes easier during the year. You just need to follow the plan. Now, are there going to be times that curveballs are going to come our way? Absolutely. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. There's going to be roadblocks, curveballs, there's going to be challenges, there's going to be the need to detour and pivot during the year. That is completely okay. And sometimes you're going to have to go off plan, and that is just life. But when we create a plan, we're basically what we're doing is being intentional about how we want to leave the next 12 months, right? And also how we want to show up and how we want to feel. So if in the past you've made a plan and you end up not following the plan, and that's the reason why you're hesitant about spending any time doing a plan, I want to encourage you to think about it this way. If you're more likely to achieve what you want to achieve, to experience what you want to experience, if you plan ahead, if you're intentional about approaching those things that you want and that matter most to you. And one of the things that should matter most to you is you. You need to make yourself a priority. A lot of times it's so much easier to make everyone else and everything else a priority and forget about ourselves. And one thing that I've learned over the years is that if I don't make myself a priority and I plan intentionally, so I make sure that I make myself a priority, I can be the best version of me for everyone and everything else. So it all starts with pouring your cup before you pour into other people's cup. So let's look at how I approach planning my year. And it all starts really with a lot of the work that we've already done. So it starts with gaining some self awareness and dreaming awake of what are the things that I want to achieve and experience this next year. And then think about how am I going to make the time for those things, either to build those experiences into my calendar or to build up the time to work on those goals and those things that I want to achieve. Before we continue, I want to remind you that we have a Notion template for our challenge. You can find a section for this week's challenge so you can follow along. All the tools that I'm going to be referencing are going to be there. All the templates are going to be there. All the questions are going to be there. So you can follow along and plan your year. So this is how I approach planning my year. I start by doing the things that we've already done. I do a life audit. I also do a vision board. And then what I do is a few things. First of all, I identify the one big thing that I want to do this year. I always pick one thing, like this one audacious big goal for the year. What is the one thing that I want to do this year? So last year was publishing a book, right? And every year I have something like that. In 2020 was doing Thrive, the Thrive conference. And then another year was taking my kids to Disney. Another year was publishing a book, right? So every year I have this one big thing that I want to have that year. That is the one thing that I will remember that year for. So if I look back at 2024, what is one thing I want to remember and feel proud about 2024, right? Because at one moment in life, I want to look back and say, this year, this was the thing, and that year, this was the thing, right? So, what is that thing for 2024? And for me, I'm still working on this. I've been thinking about a couple of things. I've been thinking about creating a growth community that I'm starting, and you're invited to join. If you want to learn more about it, make sure that you subscribe to my Monday motivation newsletter. I send an email every week and I share more details about this growth community there. The other thing is, I will love to launch an online course. So I've done a book and I would like to create an online course inspired by the book that I wrote this year. So those are a couple of things I'm thinking about. I don't know which one is going to be, but I'll end up picking one thing. And the question you need to ask yourself is, what is that one defining thing that you want to remember, that you would associate to, I did that in 2024? And then what I do is, for each area in that life audit, remember we assess ourselves in 8 different areas, which were health, intimate relationship, family and friends, fun and recreation, spirituality, career, finances, and growth. I define one thing that I want to, one or more, but at least one thing that I want to manifest in 2024 in each of those areas. So for me is having a thriving relationship with my husband, being an exceptional mom, nourish friendships, having vibrant energy, continue to grow my podcast. I even have specific goals on how many people I want to reach with the podcast, and the list goes on, right? So for each area in that life audit, I have something that I'm manifesting. And then I also describe how fulfillment looks like in that area. Fulfillment, or you can do success as well. I used to do it based on success. Now I do it based on fulfillment, because for me, that is more important. And I talk a little bit about the difference between the two on a previous podcast in this series. But I kind of write down, if vibrant energy is what I'm manifesting for 2024, how does fulfillment look like in that? What does vibrant energy mean to me? Because here's the thing. You and I might have the same thing that we're trying to manifest. We both might want to have vibrant energy in 2024, but that means completely different things for you and I. So I describe what that is, right? And then based on that, I brainstorm my goals for 2024. And not only I brainstorm and I make a list of all the goals, but I also kind of think about in which quarter of the year I'm going to be focusing, I'm going to be working on those goals. Some things are all year round, like vibrant energy or being an exceptional mom, and might be other things that are particular to one quarter. So from what I'm manifesting, I break down into goals. So what would be some goals that I can set that will enable me to fulfill what I'm manifesting, right? And then what I do is I go to my calendar and I start to put these things on my calendar. Now, I start by putting in my calendar my most important things. And for me, at this stage of my life, some of my most important things is my family. So our family vacations, I immediately block my calendar on when I'm planning to have those vacations, because I don't know about you, but how many times it has happened to me, right? That I did not plan for those vacations. And then when I'm ready to plan for them, I can't find the time because there's always something going on. So if I put that already on my calendar, that way all the other things, all other people's agenda will fall around my family vacation, which is something that is very important to me, right? In fact, I have shared before, I don't have New Year's resolutions. I don't believe in New Year's resolutions. I believe in what I'm just sharing with you. But if I have one New Year resolution every year, is to go to a new place, a new country, a new city, a new place that I haven't been before. And that's something that my husband and I share every year since we met. So that is important to me, and that goes right away on my calendar. Another thing that I like to put on my calendar is a special event. So I would block um, maybe my kids' birthdays, or I like, one of my goals is to be an exceptional mom. And one of the things that I want to do that is to have we time with each of my kids. So I will put that on my calendar. right? I want to grow my podcast. That means I need to record a podcast every week. That goes on my calendar. So, all your goals, think about, is that associated with a particular time in the year? Block your calendar for that. Or block time to work on those things that you want to achieve throughout the year. That way, everything else will fall around your most important things. This is really a principle that I learned on the 7 habits of highly effective people. Habit 3, put first things first. Dr. Covey teaches us the concept of the big rocks and how you need to put your big rocks first, and then all the gravel will fall in between the rocks. And that's something that stick to me since I first learned about this concept, I think was in 2004. And now I incorporate that in the way I plan my year. I like to put my big rocks in there. That doesn't mean that some of those big rocks are going to change and move or shift, but at least I have that already there. So I am making them a priority. I am making the time for those things. I'm planning for those things. So I don't get caught up in the day to day and then I find myself not finding time. Rather, I'm making the time up front, which is easier than trying to do that in the midst of the year when your calendar is already packed with other things. The other thing that I do when planning my year is to think about, for each of these things that I'm manifesting in 2024, what is that I'm going to stop doing, start doing, and continue doing? And that for me translates into habits. So I create a list of habits that I want to cultivate. And some of those habits are going to stick with me for the entire year, but I firmly believe that I can't start working on 10 habits at the same time. So, what I do is every month I pick a new habit that I want to work on creating a habit around. And then once that habit is solidified and is developed and established, then I add a new habit instead of trying to add everything on January 1st. I think that's one of the reasons why 80% of people give up on their New Year resolutions by February. And that is that they feel overwhelmed. They try to do everything on day one and then they found themselves feeling overwhelmed. So instead, what I like to do is like every month or every quarter, introduce a new habit. And I try to align that with whatever my goals are for that quarter. So that is how I approach my annual planning. And of course, I have a process every quarter where I check in with the things that I said I was going to focus on that quarter. And then I ask myself, are these still relevant? Has something shifted, right? Because a plan is great to have that layout up front, but I think it's important that your plan is also flexible and that you're open to modify your plan, to adjust your plan based on what's happening, right? And being able to adjust to the shift in priorities, the curveballs that we were talking about earlier. So that's why I not only do an annual planning, but I also do a quarterly planning, a monthly planning, and a weekly planning. And I'm not going to talk about all of those things today, but I want to share with you that I have created this Notion hub where I manage all of those things, where I plan my year, I plan my quarter, I plan my week, I plan my day, where I keep myself accountable and helps me stay accountable. And I have all these tools like the regular life audits and the journaling, and all of the things are built in into this Notion planner that I've created. And I'll put the link on the show notes of this podcast episode if you want to check it out. And if you want to use that tool to help you plan your year, I'll make sure I put the link on the show notes so you can try it out. And I would love to see how you like it and how it's helping you in making the most important things the most important things, which that's what it all boils down to. That we plan and we prioritize what matters most to us, and we make sure that we're making the time for those things. So that's the end. That's the wrap from our challenge. I hope this was helpful. I hope you enjoy it. If you have missed any of the previous 3 episodes, go catch up. Make sure you download the Notion template. I hope you found it helpful. I hope that even if you don't follow it the same way that I do, because that's not the expectation, that you found inspiration in this last 4 episodes on how can you approach 2024 with intention. How can you design and build and live your best year yet? With that, this podcast is dropping on Christmas Day. So I wish you're having an amazing Christmas Day. I hope that you enjoy this holiday season, spending some time with the people that you love most, treasuring memories for many years to come, reflecting on 2023, planning for 2024. I wish you a happy, healthy, and blessed 2024. And I can't wait to continue this journey with you here on the podcast in 2024. Happy New Year to you. I'll see you back in January for more of the Leading Yourself podcast.